Hello. Yeah. Okay, I'll start with the introduction.
The screen isn't shared, right?
Yeah. Just a minute. Okay, now I guess my screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible, but you need to share the slides.
Yes. Okay, let me just start with the basics. Just a minute.
Yeah, put it on full screen. Go to slideshow. Put it on full screen. At the top, you'll be able to see.
Pratisha? Yeah, okay. So let me just start with the basics. So firstly, I'll just go through how you can download PHP onto your local machine. So there is this specific website, php.net. You can download PHP for Windows or Mac or Linux from that website. And then you can download the zip folder and extract all the files from it and copy that folder path into environment variables. And once that is done, you can check if PHP is successfully installed on your machine by uh, typing a php // version command in your command prompt. Okay, so this is how you can download PHP on your local machine. And once the download and installation is done, we are good to go. Let me just start with PHP. Yeah, PHP is okay. It's an acronym for hypertext preprocessor. So why do we need PHP? Well, we often fill different forms, right? Like we fill up some Google forms, like feedback forms, or mentioning some details, or filling up an application for a job or internship, etc. So all the information that we are given, how is it handled? In the back end, we can use PHP to handle such information. So the basic purpose of PHP is to handle such information in the backend, and yeah, and then it's a open source project, and yeah, whenever we wish to write some information in files, we have to use .php extension to save it, and yeah, it PHP can be we can execute PHP on various platforms such as Windows, Linux, Unix, Mac, etc. And yeah, this is a simple example of PHP. So we can embed PHP in a HTML file in this way. See, this whole thing is HTML, and we can embed our PHP code within this the Angular bracket question mark PHP, and all the code goes into this block, and yeah, this yeah. So what can PHP do? If we wish to generate some dynamic content, we can use PHP, and not just dynamic content. We can access files. We can perform operations like creating the files, opening them, reading them, writing them, and modifying it, and appending extra information to it. We can collect, like I've mentioned earlier, we can also collect information from forms, and then we can add and delete information from database. So these are some of the important uh, functions of PHP. Yeah. And if you want to include PHP code, you can just write include and in quotations you can just put the file name. Yeah, this is the syntax. And yeah, and then in order to access data, HTTP data, there are two methods. One is get and other is post. In get method, we generally user makes some requests, and such requests are turned into a URL, and that URL itself has certain parameters, like for example, whenever we wish to search for something on Google, if you observe closely at the URL, all the information search text which you have typed can be found within URL itself. That is nothing but the get request which we are sending to server, and based on that URL, PHP sends back the information that's necessary to the user. And then post method is used whenever we want to modify or post the information onto the web page. So these are the basic methods which we use for accessing HTTP data. Yeah, and some of the interview questions related to introduction are so mostly interviewers will be asking, is PHP case sensitive language? Well, we must answer it as it's a partial case sensitive language, because whenever we use variables or function names, we have to make sure it is case sensitive in case of variable names or function names. However, built-in functions such as echo or print, etc., they are not case sensitive. No matter you use capitals or smalls, it works fine. And yeah, and the other one is what is escaping in PHP. So it's a So, like I mentioned, PHP can be included in a HTML file. So, how do we basically distinguish a HTML element from a PHP element? So, there is something called as PHP parsing engine. So, this basically does the job. It differentiates PHP code from other elements within the page, and the mechanism that's used for differentiating the PHP code from other elements present in the page is nothing but escaping. And then PHP is already mentioned earlier, so we can just give the basic definition and some of its functions. uh, yeah, now we are done with the intro to PHP. Now let's just dive deeper into the basics of it. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, we should use whenever we want to use PHP code, we need to embed the whole code in these in the Angular brace and question mark and then PHP keyword. Then we'll be writing the total PHP code. And once the code is done, we need to close it again with the question mark and closing Angular bracket. Like I've mentioned, the file extension must be .php. Yeah, this is a basic program. It just mentions hello world. Yeah, and yeah, this is again discussed. This is discussed earlier itself. Like I mentioned, it's case sensitive in case of variable names and functions that user defines. However, in case of built-in functions, they need not be they are not case sensitive. Yeah, and in case of comments, if you want to use single line comments, we can use double slash. Whereas in case of multiple lines of comments, it's just the syntax is same as that of C. And yeah, so we have PHP variables and constants. So variables are containers which store information, and the information present in the variables can be changed. However, once a constant is defined, we cannot change the value present in it. So this is the syntax for declaring variable. And in case of constant, we need to use a keyword called define. So here we'll be giving the constant name, and then here we'll be giving the value that the constant must contain. And also this is and in case of PHP, we don't have to mention which data type it is while declaring it. Like in case of C, we have to mention that this variable is going to contain integer information or float or decimal, something like that. But in case of PHP, we don't have to mention it at the beginning. And also there are some rules for declaring variable name. So a variable must always begin with the dollar sign, and a variable, the name can contain the the alphanumeric characters and also an underscore. One of the here an example is shown. See, there is a text variable, and to that hello world string is assigned. And in case of, and then there is an x is another variable. 5 is numeric, and 5 is assigned to x. Yeah, this okay. This explains how we can initialize um, normal variables, and also how we can define, how we can declare constants as well. So in case of constants, like I've mentioned, we use define keyword, and this is the variable, sorry, the constant name, and then this is the value of that book will contain. So whenever we try to print book, see, the web technology is getting printed. Yeah, and this is related to yeah. So now we are done with variables and constants. Yeah. So let's discuss about keyword and data types. So what is a keyword? Keywords are a set of characters which are set aside by the language. You We cannot use keywords for naming variables or any other functions or even constants. So for example, see, some of the examples are given, like echo, we have print, and then if, else if, define, etc. These all are keywords. We cannot. So let's say we have a keyword define. Now I can't name a variable saying dollar define. It throws an error. And data, coming to data type. So we store lots of data, right? So the data type defines the format of the data. So in case of PHP, there are four main data types. Uh, they are, one is string, and then integer, float, and boolean. So string is nothing but a group of characters, and integer, it is a number, and then float is a decimal number, and boolean is it can either be true or it can either or false. Yeah, now we are done with the scope. Well, let's just know what scope is. Scope is the region of a program within which the variable is accessible. So here I've said x is 15. Uh, Now I can use this variable within the whole program. I mean, within that block. Okay, and let's see. In case of, okay, yeah. Okay, let's just take this. Now I've declared x equal to 15 in this PHP block. However, if I try to print that variable within my function, it just throws an error because we did not mention the x variable within the function block. We just mentioned it above it. I mean, the x is not accessible within the function block. See, however, if we try the second method, which is a global scope, see, now I have already declared the x at the beginning and also y at the beginning. And now I'm just saying within my function that the x and y variables have already been declared as global variables. So use them. Now I can now I can access the x and y variables easily. It doesn't throw any error. And in case of this, the y value will be modified to 35. And then when I execute my test, and then when I try to print the y variable, I get 35 as output. And in case of static is generally used when the value of a particular variable should not change. Like for example, let's say, let's take this example itself. So whenever I call my test for the first time, x value is 0, and then I'll shall print 0 as output, and I'll increment x. Now x value is 1. If I did not, and once again I'm calling my test function. Now the static this declaration will not be processed, because static variables are processed only once, that is at the beginning of the program. And now if I try to print x, now I'll be getting 1 as output, and once again x is incremented, so x value will be 2. And once again when I try to call my test function, 2 will be printed and x is incremented. So this is about static scope. Yeah, some of the interview questions are so generally interviewers might be asking, why do we use single and double quotes in case of strings? So, the basic difference can be explained by the example that's given. So let's say I've used single quotes while assigning a string to statement, and I've also used double quotes. In the first case, when I've used single quotes, the dollar variable, then the way the actual information present in that variable will not be substituted. However, if I use double quotes, the actual information present in that variable is substituted. See, here's the output. If I print it when I used single quotes, the actual information is not substituted. However, in the second case, I've used double quotes, so the actual information got substituted. And what's the difference between echo and print in PHP? So the main difference is that echo returns a variable saying that it's successful or failure, whereas print doesn't return any variable. So this is the difference between echo and print. And then how do we define constant? This is already dealt earlier. We use a define keyword, and then in the braces we'll be mentioning the constant name, and also the value that constant will contain. And then coming to PHP operators, since we are familiar with C operators, most of the C operators are common to PHP as well. So why do we use operators? So we generally deal with different sorts of manipulations, right? So for modifying the data and calculating or performing other operations and manipulations on data, we use operators. Let's just see the types of operators present in PHP. Okay, so these are different types of operators present in PHP. They are arithmetic, assignment, comparison, increment, decrement, logical, string, array, and conditional assignment. Yeah. So their arithmetic operators are once again common with C. We have plus for addition, minus for subtraction, and we have slash for division, and percent, which is modulus. It gives us reminder, and then for exponentiation, for calculating powers, we use two asterisks. Yeah, this is the example program. See, x and y are, x is initialized to 10 and y is initialized to 6. And then we are trying to print its sum, difference, product, and then division and remainder. And we are also printing out the power. Yeah. And then coming to assignment operators, so whatever is present on the right hand side is assigned to the left hand side variable. So there are once again different types of assignment operators. Uh, so these are the different kinds of assignment operators. So x equal to y. So whatever value is present in y is simply substituted in x as well. And in case of plus equal to, whatever value is present in y will be added to x, and that total value is assigned to x. Similarly with the others as well. Yeah, this is a sample program. And comparison operators are also similar to the comparison operators present in C language. Yes. So these are the different types of comparison operators present in PHP. So we use double equal to check whether the value present in x and on left and right hand side are equal, and if they are equal, it returns true, else it returns false. In case of three equal symbols, this first checks the value, whether the values are equal, and also the value on the left hand side and the value on the right hand side must be of same type. Yeah, similarly with not equal to, and yeah, these are the other comparison operators. So this is a sample program explaining all the comparison operators at a single place. Like I mentioned, the expression will be evaluated to either true or false. See, the output contains only Boolean values. And then increment and decrement. Once again, these operators does the same function as that of C, increment and decrement. So we use these we use plus plus in case of increment, and we use minus minus in case of decrement. Yeah, and if we use the plus plus before the variable, so first the variable is incremented, and then that value is assigned to the variable present on left hand side. And in case of post increment, we first try the variable and then we mention two plus symbols. And here first the assignment is made, and once the assignment is done, then the variable is incremented. It's same with the decrement as well. This is an example program. And then string operators, like I've mentioned earlier, string is nothing but a set of characters. So in our we have different operators to handle functions of strings as well. So in order to concatenate two strings, we use dot, and then to append we use dot equal to. Yeah, these two are the important and most frequently used operators in case of strings. And this is an example. Text one is a variable which has hello information, and then text two has word. And now when I try to print text1 dot text2, it gets concatenated. Uh, in the similar way, dot equal to also works. Yeah, and then ternary operator. So ternary operator helps in evaluating a condition, and based on the uh, and based on whether the condition is true or not, different statements will be evaluated. For example, let's take this one. Let's see this. If expression 1 is true, expression 2 is evaluated. Else, if expression 1 is false, then expression 3 is evaluated. Uh, yeah. And this is an example which explains the operation of conditional operators. Okay, so basic interview questions are what's the difference between unary, binary, and ternary operators? So in unary operators are the operators which we use only on a single operand, whereas in case of binary operators, we have two operands, and in case of ternary operators, we have three operands. And then difference between a single equal to and double equal to. So single equal to is an assignment operator. Whatever is present on the right hand side is directly substituted onto the left hand side variable. Whereas in case of double equal, it returns a boolean value by verifying whether the value present in both the left and right hand sides variables are equal. And what are the different types of PHP operators? We have discussed it earlier. We can mention all the operators that we had seen till now. Hello, Pratisha, are you there? Hello.
Sir.
Okay. Yeah. Now, speaking about program control, so we write huge lines of code, right? So program control explains the order in which the instructions or function calls, how they are evaluated, how they must be run, in what order the execution must take place. So there are three main types of program control. One is sequential, other is conditional, and other is looping. So in case of sequential, we just go through each line of code and we execute that line. We don't jump to different location, and we don't jump to different location. And in case of conditional structures, we first check whether an expression is true, and based on that we keep jumping to other parts of the program and executing those parts. And in case of looping, we generally come across situations where we are supposed to execute a set of instructions repeatedly. In such cases, we generally use looping. And in case of conditional, we have different techniques. So one is a simple if, and other is if else, and then we have else if ladder, and we have switch, and also we have ternary operator. And in case of looping, we have four different loop constructs. They are for, while, for each, and do while. Let's discuss them in detail. Yeah. So a simple if statement contains just a if statement. It doesn't have any else if or else conditions, else blocks. Sorry. So this uh, uh, the syntax of it is we use the keyword if, and within the braces we place the condition, and we write the set of code in different blocks based on the conditions. So here is an example. Okay, so basically what it's doing is it's reading input from the console, and based on the input that's read, it is checking whether the mark. Okay, in this case I am reading marks that's entered by the user, And since whatever I enter on the console, it's taken as string, I'm typecasting it using the typecasting operator, which is enclosed within brackets. And now I've got 76 from the user. So I'm checking, is 76 greater than 90? So this condition evaluates to false. So I will go to next else if condition. Now is 76 greater than 80? No, it's false. So I'll go to the next condition. Is 76 greater than 70? Yes. So I'll go to that particular block and I will execute all the instructions that are present in that block. So in this case, there's just one statement, grade B. So that will be printed to the output screen. Uh, in case if none of the conditions are satisfied, whatever is present in the else block, that set of instructions will be executed. So this is with if else, and then switch. So whenever there are a large number of conditions to be checked, in such cases else if becomes complex. So rather we have something with simple syntax, which that is nothing but switch. So switch is quite similar to that of else if. So yeah, here is an example of switch statement. So what I'm doing here is I'm reading insert from user, and then I'm storing it in grade, and I'm checking whether grade is equal to O, and if it's O, I'll be printing that the user might have got score somewhere in between 91 to 100, and if it's yay, it's 81 to 90, and so on. And then I am using a break statement just to make sure that once a condition is satisfied, that set of block is executed, and then we just break out of the switch block. And then ternary operator, this is already discussed earlier in the operator section. So like I've mentioned, we first evaluate the condition, and if the condition is true, we execute the statement one. If it's false, if the condition is false, then we will go to then we'll execute statement two. Yeah, and then looping structures. So let's just start with while. And while is an entry control loop. This is because before entering the loop instructions present in the while block, we first check whether the condition is true, and only if the condition is true, then we try to execute all the instructions that are present in the while block. And in case of do while, we directly go into the do while block, and that is we won't check the condition at the beginning. Once the execution is done, that is once the whole block is executed, at the end we will be checking the condition. That's the reason why it's do while is an exit control block. So this is a syntax for while, and this is a syntax for do while. And then yeah, this is a sample program for printing out all the elements from 1 to 9. So the same can be achieved using do while loop as well. uh, and then going to for loop. For loop is also an entry control loop, because at the beginning itself we check whether the condition is true. And this is a syntax for loop. We have this is a strong one, because this is stronger than while loop, because within within the for loop, the for block itself, I mean within the braces itself, we can use initialization expression, and then test condition, and also we can update any sort of expressions just within a single statement itself. So that's why it's stronger than while. And yeah, the program explains the same function. Earlier we have seen printing 1 to 9 numbers using while do while. Similar thing can be achieved using for as well. Yeah. And then for each, this is a loop construct. This is used only when we want to iterate over arrays. This is the syntax for looping over arrays. Yeah, this program shows how we can use for each. So I've declared an array, and then I want to loop over all the elements present in the array. In such cases, I can use a for each, and uh, by following the syntax mentioned here, I can print out all the elements present in the array. Some of the frequently asked questions from this topic are we generally use some conditions in if, while, else if, right? So how are those statements evaluated? So that literal is is either can either be true or false. So in case of strings, if it's a null string, it is evaluated to false. And in case of any string that has a minimum of one character, it is evaluated to true. And in case of numerical data, any numerical data with other than zero are equivalent to true. And in case of zero, it's evaluated to false. And yeah, like I've mentioned earlier itself, for loop is powerful than while loop because it has additional two parameters. And then in so if we okay, we generally execute many iterations in loops, right? So if we want to skip a particular iteration and we uh, need to go to the next iteration, then we can use continue statement. Yeah. Control is Pratisha, once pause, no?